Captain Elias Hammond stood tall as he walked through the grand doors of the Galactic Council chamber. His blue uniform was perfectly pressed, metals glinting under the bright lights. He was not a young man anymore. His hair had gone gray. The temples and lines marked his face from 30 years of service to Earth and its people. The chamber was huge, with seats rising in circles like a giant bowl. 27 different alien species filled those seats. Some had scales, some had fur, others had skin that glowed or changed colors. They all watched as Elias walked to the center of the floor. None of them smiled. Elias had practiced his speech 100 times on the journey here. This was humanity's final attempt to gain full membership in the Council. For 50 years, humans had been labeled as a developing species with limited rights. They could not settle new planets beyond their solar system. They could not vote on council matters. They had to follow rules they had no say in making. Meanwhile, Elias had watched newer species get full rights within just a few years of being discovered. Something was wrong with this picture. Intelligence reports suggested that several powerful council members were taking bribes to keep humans contained. The aliens feared how quickly humans adapted and solved problems. Representatives of the Galactic Council, Elias began, his voice steady and clear. I come before you today as the voice of Earth and its 12 billion citizens. The room was so quiet Elias could hear the soft hum of the air systems. The aliens watched him with their various eyes. Some had 2 like humans, others had as many as 8. For 5 decades humanity has followed your rules. We have shared our culture, our art, our medical knowledge. We have traded fairly and fought alongside council forces when asked to defend the peace. Elias paused and looked around the room. The Xerillian representative, Kral, shifted in his seat. As head of the council, his opinion carried the most weight. He was ancient even by Xerillian standards, with skin like dry paper and eyes that had seen thousands of years of galactic politics. Yet despite our contributions, humans remain unable to grow beyond our birth system. We watch as species discovered, just 10 years ago, are granted full rights while our petitions are denied, time after time. Elias tapped a button on his wrist device, and charts appeared in the air around him. The first showed human technological growth compared to other species. The second showed population pressure in the Earth system. The third showed denied petition dates, 6 over the last 20 years. These facts speak for themselves, Elias continued. But today I ask you to see beyond facts to the principle of the matter. Either the Council stands for equal treatment of all intelligent life, or it does not. Some of the younger council members nodded slightly. The Nelvaran representative, with her silvery skin and thoughtful eyes, was writing notes. She had been friendly to humans in the past. We have evidence, Elias said carefully, that some council decisions regarding Earth have been influenced by factors outside the normal political process. A murmur ran through the room. Elias had just politely accused council members of corruption, a serious charge. I am not here to make accusations, Elias said, raising his hands in a peaceful gesture. I am here to make one final appeal based on the Council's own founding principles. He touched his device again, and the alien text of the Council's charter appeared with certain passages highlighted. All sentient species shall be judged by the same standards. Your words, not mine. Elias took a deep breath. This was the moment that would decide everything. Humanity asks one last time for equal treatment under your laws. We have met every requirement for full membership according to your charter. Should this request be denied again, Earth will consider all diplomatic options exhausted. The chamber went completely silent. Even the whispers stopped. Everyone understood what Elias meant. This was not just a petition, it was an ultimatum. Kral, the ancient Xerillian, leaned forward on his hoverchair. His eyes narrowed as he studied Elias. Captain Hammond, he said, his voice dry and scratchy, like leaves blowing across stone. The Council has heard the position of Earth many times before. Your enthusiasm for expansion concerns many members. Not expansion, Counselor, Elias corrected politely. Equal rights, the same rights given to the Drakari 5 years ago, despite their having achieved space travel 2 centuries after humans. Kral waved a long-fingered hand dismissively. Each species is evaluated on its own merits. According to what criteria? Elias asked. We have repeatedly requested the specific metrics by which Earth is judged lacking. No answer has ever been provided. The Nelvaran representative spoke up. The human raises a valid point, High Counselor. Perhaps we should review. This session is adjourned, Krall announced suddenly. The Council will consider Earth's petition and respond through appropriate channels. Elias stood frozen in place. Counselor, we have waited 20 years for... You are dismissed, Captain, Krall said, not unkindly but firmly. The session is adjourned. 2 Council security officers approached Elias. They were Jugorians, tall and muscular with 4 arms each. They did not touch him, but made it clear he was expected to leave. Elias looked around the chamber one last time. Some council members avoided his eyes. Others looked troubled. A few seemed pleased by his dismissal. With dignity, Elias turned and walked toward the exit. As he reached the doors, he heard hushed conversation resume behind him. Outside, in the hallway, Elias was met by his aide, Lieutenant Peter Garcia. How did it go, sir? Peter asked eagerly. Elias shook his head slightly. They gave no answer, Peter. They simply ended the session. But that's against protocol. They're required to do nothing, Elias said quietly. That's the point. We play by their rules. They change the rules whenever it suits them. The 2 men walked in silence through the gleaming corridors of the council station. Through large windows, they could see the blue-green planet of Centauri Prime below and the stars beyond. What happens now, sir? Peter finally asked as they approached their shuttle. Elias looked at the young lieutenant. Peter had been born on Mars and had never even seen Earth except in pictures. Like many from the outer colonies, he had grown up with limited opportunities because of council restrictions. Now we go back to the Intrepid, Elias said, and I send a message to Earth Command. Once aboard their shuttle, Elias sat at the communication console. He encrypted a channel directly to Admiral Olivia Reeves on Earth. His message contained just one word: rebuffed. He knew what would happen next. Plans had been made long ago for this moment. Earth had been patient, had played by the rules, had tried diplomacy at every turn. But Elias had just spoken humanity's final peaceful request. The Riao Council's silence was their answer, and that silence would spark a war. Admiral Olivia Reeves stood before the United Earth Federation Assembly in Geneva. Her gray uniform was decorated with service ribbons, and her short brown hair was neatly trimmed. 200 representatives from Earth and its colonies watched her in silence. The single-word message from Captain Hammond had arrived 3 days ago. Captain Hammond's petition was dismissed without formal response, Admiral Reeves said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes showed anger. This marks the 7th formal petition denied in 20 years. The chamber erupted. Representatives shouted and pounded their desks. Some called for immediate action, others for more diplomacy. Olivia waited for the noise to die down. The Security Council voted last night, she continued when she could be heard again. Operation Exodus will begin immediately. Murmurs spread through the room. Everyone knew what Operation Exodus meant. For 15 years, Earth had been secretly building ships that violated Council restrictions. Those ships were hidden in underwater bases and inside hollow asteroids. Now they would be used. Later that day, Olivia sat at the head of a long table in an underground room 300 feet below Geneva. With her were 12 men and women who would lead humanity's response to the Council's refusal. Jack, tell us about the shields, Olivia said to a man with wild red hair and a wrinkled shirt. Jack Russell stood up and touched a control panel. A hologram appeared showing a sphere of blue light. Our shield technology works, he said with a grin. We've kept it hidden from Council inspectors for 8 years. Their shields all operate on the same principle, which is why their approved weapons can cut through them so easily. Jack changed the image to show a different pattern of energy. Our shields work differently. In all our tests, Council weapons barely made a dent. And our weapons? Asked Olivia. Standard stuff mostly, Jack replied. We didn't want to push our luck developing new weapon systems. But with our shields, We'll have time to outmaneuver them. Olivia nodded and turned to a young woman with blonde hair pulled into a tight bun. Sam, intelligence report. Lieutenant Sam Peters stood and faced the group. We now have proof the council has been deliberately holding us back, she said. She displayed images of secret meetings between council members. Our spy drones recorded these conversations, Sam explained. These Xerillians and Jugorians specifically mentioned humanity's dangerous adaptability as a reason to keep us contained. They fear how quickly humans learn and solve problems. She showed more images, these of alien ships monitoring Earth colonies. They've been watching us closely, looking for any excuse to restrict us further. They're afraid of us, plain and simple. The room was quiet, as everyone took in this information. Humans had suspected for years that the council saw them as a threat. Now they had proof. The colony ships are ready, said Commander Frank Lopez, the next to speak. 50 vessels, each carrying 5,000 colonists in sleep pods, plus supplies, equipment, and defense forces. Where will they go? Asked Olivia, though she already knew the answer. Frank displayed a map of nearby star systems. These 12 systems are our primary targets. All have habitable planets. None are claimed by council races, though the council has declared them off-limits to human settlement, which means they'll try to stop us, said Jack. Yes, Olivia agreed, they will. 2 weeks later, the colony ships prepared to leave from Mars orbit. Each massive vessel was over a mile long. Inside were families who had volunteered to start new lives on distant worlds. Many had been training for years for this moment. All, in strict secrecy. The ships would travel in 4 groups, each headed to different star systems. Each group had escort vessels equipped with Jack Russell's shield technology. On the bridge of the lead ship, named New Beginning, Commander Alice, Bennett watched her crew prepare for departure. At 42, Alice had spent half her life in space. This would be her most important mission. Final checks complete, reported her second-in-command, Ryan Miller. All colonists are secure in sleep pods. Course is set for HD 4307. HD 4307 was a star system with 6 planets. The third one could support human life with minimal adaptation. The Council had declared it a biological preserve 20 years ago, but Earth probes had found no intelligent life there. Begin launch sequence, Alice ordered. Inform the other ships. Across the fleet, engines powered up. Massive fusion drives glowed blue as they prepared to push the ships out of Mars orbit. On Earth, billions watched on screens as the ships departed. This was humanity's biggest gamble. If they succeeded, people would have new homes among the stars. If they failed, the Council might punish Earth severely. The colony ships moved away from Mars, picking up speed. Soon they would activate their faster-than-light drives and disappear into the depths of space. But they didn't get far before the alarm sounded. Council observer ships approaching, Ryan reported, looking at his screen. 3 vessels on intercept course. Alice was not surprised. They had expected this. Activate communication system, she ordered. Standard greeting message. The face of an alien appeared on the main screen. It was a Jugorian with tough gray skin and 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. Human vessels, the alien said in the common galactic language. You are violating Council Directive 447B. No Earth ships may travel beyond the Sol system without permission. Return to your orbit immediately. Alice kept her face neutral. Observer, we are on a peaceful mission to establish new homes for our people. We claim the right of expansion granted to all sentient species under the Council's own charter. The Jugorian's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. Your species does not have expansion rights at this time. This is your only warning. Return or face consequences. The screen went dark. Alice looked at her crew. They all knew what to do next. Continue. On course, she ordered. Prepare shields but do not activate weapons. Let's see what they do. The colony ships continued moving away from Mars. The Council observer vessels followed, but did not attack. They were likely reporting back to their superiors waiting for orders. Alice opened a channel to Admiral Reeves on Earth. Phase 1 complete, she reported. Council observers have made contact and issued warnings just as expected. Olivia's face on the screen was grim but determined. Proceed as planned, Commander. The other fleet groups report similar contacts. It seems the Council is not yet ready to use force. What about our intelligence from Council space? Alice asked. Reports indicate they're surprised by our move, Olivia said. They didn't think we'd actually do it. Now they're scrambling to decide how to respond. Alice nodded. How long until we reach the jump point? 6 hours, Ryan answered from his station. 6 hours until they would activate their faster-than-light drives and leave the solar system behind. 6 hours during which the Council observers could decide to attack. Keep me informed of any changes, Olivia ordered. Earth stands with you. The communication ended. Alice stood on the bridge, watching the stars through the view screen. Humanity had lived under the Council's thumb for too long. Captain Hammond had given the Council one last chance. Their silence had been their answer. Now humanity would answer back. The Council warship Dominant Will moved through space with deadly grace. It was 3 times larger than any human ship, shaped like a curved blade and covered in weapons. The ship had been sent to intercept the human colony fleet near HD 4307, a star system the Council had declared off-limits to humans. Inside the warship, Council Commander Zex Velar watched the approaching human vessels on his view screen. He was a Drenari, a species known for strict obedience to rules. His blue-scaled skin reflected the dim bridge lights as he studied the human ships. How many? He asked his second officer. 12 colony ships and 4 escort vessels, replied the officer. The escorts are smaller but appear to be military class. Zex Velar made a clicking sound with his mouthparts. His orders from the Council were clear. No human expansion would be permitted. He was authorized to use force if necessary. Send the standard warning, he ordered. Meanwhile, on the bridge of the Earth protection vessel, Defender, Commander Alice, Bennett received the transmission from the Council warship. Human vessels, this is Council enforcement ship, Dominant Will. You are entering restricted space. Turn back immediately, or face destruction. This is your only warning. Alice exchanged looks with her second-in-command, Ryan Miller. They had trained for this moment. According to Operation Exodus protocols, they would not fire first, but they would not turn back either. Send the prepared response, Alice ordered. Ryan nodded and activated the communication system. Council vessel, we are peaceful settlers, exercising the right of expansion granted to all sentient species. We will defend ourselves if attacked, but we wish no conflict. On the Dominant Will, Zex Velar received the human response with irritation. He had expected them to retreat as they always had before. They refused to comply, his communications officer reported. Then we will give them a demonstration, Zex Velar decided. Target the lead escort vessel's propulsion systems. Disable, do not destroy. The Dominant Will fired a warning shot, a burst of energy designed to damage the human ship's engines. To the shock of the Council crew, the beam hit something invisible around the human ship and scattered harmlessly into space. What happened? Zex Velar demanded. Unknown, Commander, replied his weapons officer. They appear to have some kind of shield technology. This was impossible. Council intelligence had complete information on human capabilities. They had no shield technology that could stop Council weapons. Scan those vessels again, Zex Velar ordered. Alice watched as the Council ship fired and their new shields held. Perfectly. Jack Russell's technology had worked exactly as promised. On her command screen she could see the Council ship scanning them intensely. They look confused, Ryan said with a small smile. They should be, Alice replied. Keep our course steady. Do not power weapons unless they fire again. The colony ships continued forward, protected by their escorts. For several minutes, a tense silence filled space as the Council ship matched their course but did not attack again. Then Alice's communication system activated. The face of Commander Zex Velar appeared on screen. Human vessel, he said, his alien voice cold and precise. You are using unauthorized technology. Explain how. You acquired shield systems of this capability. Alice kept her face calm. We developed them ourselves, Commander. Earth has always had the capacity for innovation when our survival depends on it. The alien's eyes narrowed. Impossible. Such technology is beyond your development level. Apparently, not, Alice replied simply. Zex Valor's scaled face showed no emotion, but his voice tightened. You will power down your ships and prepare for boarding. The Council will determine how you acquired this technology. Alice shook her head. We will not power down or accept boarding. We are exercising our right to expand to unclaimed worlds. We have no quarrel with the Council, but we will defend ourselves. The communication ended abruptly. Alice turned to her crew. Battle stations, she ordered. They're going to attack. The dominant will launched a full assault. Energy beams and plasma torpedoes struck the human shields. The defender rocked from the impact, but the shields held. Shields at 82%, reported the defense officer. Holding stable. Alice took a deep breath. Target their weapon systems only. Disable, don't destroy. The defender and its sister ships returned fire. Their weapons were less powerful than the Council ships, but they were precisely aimed. The first shots hit the dominant will's main weapons array, causing explosions along its hull. The Council ship fired again, but with fewer weapons. The human ships continued their precise counterattack, targeting engines and weapon systems while avoiding crew areas. Within 20 minutes, the dominant will floated in space, its main systems disabled. It could still support life and make emergency repairs, but it could no longer fight. Alice opened a communication channel to the crippled Council vessel. Council ship, we have disabled your weapons and propulsion to protect ourselves. We have deliberately avoided hitting life support or crew quarters. We will send you emergency repair supplies before we continue on our way. There was a long pause before Zex Valor responded, his voice tight with anger and surprise. Why would you offer aid to an enemy? He demanded. Because we're not your enemy, Alice replied. We never wanted conflict. We sought only peaceful coexistence. Remember who fired first. After sending repair supplies to the disabled Council ship, the human fleet continued toward their destination. Alice sent a message back to Earth, reporting the encounter and the effectiveness of their shields. She also broadcast a message throughout the sector on all frequencies, knowing it would be picked up by many worlds. This is Commander Alice Bennett of Earth Vessel Defender. Today we were attacked while on a peaceful mission to settle a new world. We defended ourselves with minimal force and offered aid to our attackers. Let it be known that humans seek only the same rights as all other species. We regret this conflict, but will not surrender our future. The message spread quickly through Council space. Several mid-tier Council races, themselves unhappy with the dominance of the senior members, took note. Some began secret communications with Earth representatives. On Earth, Admiral Olivia Reeves received Alice's report. She immediately called an emergency meeting of Earth leadership. The first blood has been drawn, she told them. The Council will not take this lightly. They will come at us with everything they have. Are we ready? Asked the Earth President. Olivia nodded firmly. Our shields work better than expected. Our tactics were effective. Most importantly, Commander Bennett showed restraint and humanity. She disabled rather than destroyed and offered aid to the disabled ship. That sends a powerful message to watching worlds. The President stood and looked at the gathered leaders. Then we continue with Operation Exodus. Captain Hammond spoke once. The Council's silence spoke volumes. Now our actions will speak for us. Across the galaxy, the news spread. Humans had stood up to the Council and won their first battle. A new age had begun. 6 months had passed since the first battle between human and Council forces. The conflict became known as the Silent War because neither side had officially declared war. The Council refused to recognize humans as worthy opponents, while Earth focused on establishing colonies rather than fighting. In that time, humanity had successfully set up 12 new colonies on distant planets. Each colony now had at least 5,000 people living there, building homes, growing food, and setting up defenses. The colony on Kepler 452b, nicknamed New Eden, had already grown to 15,000 people as more ships arrived. The Council tried many ways to stop the human expansion. They used economic sanctions, refusing to trade with Earth or its colonies. They spread stories about humans being dangerous and violent, but their military efforts had largely failed. Human shield technology continued to protect their ships and colonies from Council attacks. More surprisingly, several Council races began to side with humans. The first was the Nelvarans, an ancient species known for their wisdom and peaceful ways. Though physically weak, they were respected throughout the galaxy for their advanced thinking and art. The Nelvaran High Speaker, Telena, addressed her people in a historic speech that was shared across many worlds. For too long, the Council has been ruled by fear rather than wisdom, she said, her silver eyes shining. The humans have shown not only strength but restraint. When they disabled Council ships, they offered aid rather than destruction. These are not the actions of the barbarians. We were told they were. 2 weeks later, the Nelvarans formally broke from the Council and signed a treaty with Earth. Soon the Drakari and Hazoth did the same. Together with Earth, they formed what became known as the Free Systems Coalition. The headquarters of this new alliance was established on Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. There, in a dome built beneath the icy surface, representatives from all coalition species met to form a new kind of government. Paul Morrison, Earth's diplomatic coordinator, was key to these efforts. At 58, Paul had spent decades studying alien cultures and languages. He was determined to build an alliance based on true equality. The mistake the Council made, Paul explained to the gathered representatives, was creating a system where some species had more power than others. In our coalition, each world gets an equal voice regardless of how old or advanced their civilization is. The Nelvaran representative, with her silvery skin and flowing robes, nodded in agreement. This is the way cooperation should work, not through force but through respect. Not everyone supported the coalition. Council agents tried to disrupt these efforts, even attempting to assassinate Paul Morrison. The attack came during a public ceremony on Europa, when a disguised Council operative fired an energy weapon at the diplomat. Kate Foster, a security specialist with military intelligence, saw the attack coming seconds before it happened. She noticed a person in the crowd whose body language didn't match those around him. As the assassin raised his weapon, Kate lunged forward, tackling Paul to the ground. The energy blast missed him by inches. Kate drew her own weapon and fired back, stunning the assassin before he could escape. Later, when questioned, the assassin was identified as a member of the Jugorian Special Forces, sent directly by Council leadership. The failed attempt only made the coalition stronger, as more species began to question Council leadership. Meanwhile, on the medical colony of Proxima Centauri b, Dr. Emma White made an important discovery. By combining Nelvaran biological knowledge with human medical science, she created treatments for diseases that had long plagued many species. The Nelvarans understand cellular structures in ways we never imagined, Emma explained to her team. And we humans have practical approaches they never considered. Together, we've created something neither of us could have done alone. The new medical treatments were shared freely with all coalition worlds and even offered to Council planets. This generosity won more support from populations across the galaxy, especially from ordinary people who benefited from the treatments. Ennui. Earth. Admiral Olivia Reeves received reports from all colonies and coalition activities. She met regularly with Captain Elias Hammond, who had been promoted after his historic stand before the Council. Together they watched the growing alliance, with cautious hope. The Council still outmatches us in ships and weapons, Olivia reminded Elias during one meeting. They control hundreds of worlds to our dozen. Elias nodded, studying the star map that showed human colonies as small blue dots in a sea of Council-controlled red space. True, but we have something they don't. The shields? More than that, Elias said. We have a cause people believe in. Freedom and equal treatment. The Council runs on fear and tradition. That's why they're losing member worlds. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent message. Council spy drones had been detected near New Eden, their largest and most important colony. Intelligence suggested that the Council was planning a major attack. They're gathering an armada, reported Lieutenant Sam Peters, showing them sensor data. 300 warships from 6 different council species. It looks like they're planning to end this once and for all. Olivia's face grew serious. How many ships do we have at New Eden? 50, Sam replied, but they all have the enhanced shield technology, and the colony's ground defenses are operational. Elias looked at the data and thought for a moment. They're desperate, he said finally. This is a sign that we're winning the larger struggle. They wouldn't commit so many resources unless they felt threatened. Even so, Olivia said, we can't let them destroy New Eden. It would cripple our expansion efforts and kill thousands of colonists. I'll go, Elias said firmly. Give me command of our forces there. The council knows who I am. Perhaps I can talk to them before more blood is shed. Olivia considered this, then nodded. Very well. Take the flagship Resolution. It has our latest shield upgrades and communication systems. 3 days later, Captain Elias Hammond departed Earth for New Eden, knowing he would arrive just days before the Council Armada. On his ship were the best crews Earth could provide, along with new weapons developed by Jack Russell. As the Resolution jumped into faster-than-light travel, Elias stood on the bridge looking at the streaking stars. The human adventure among those stars had only just begun. He was determined it would not end with this battle. The silent war was about to reach its turning point, and once again, Elias Hammond would speak for humanity. The Council Armada arrived at Kepler 452b with overwhelming force. 300 warships appeared near the human colony world of New Eden. The ships formed a huge half-circle in space, weapons ready. Against them stood just 50 human vessels, arranged in a defensive line between the Armada and the planet. On the bridge of the flagship Resolution, Captain Elias Hammond studied the enemy ships on his view screen. Though outnumbered 6-1, he remained calm. All ships report ready, Captain, said his first officer, Lieutenant Maria Diaz. Colony defense systems are online as well. Elias nodded. He had arrived 3 days earlier and had worked with Commander Daniel Wright of Earth Defense Command to prepare their strategy. They knew they could not match the Council's numbers, but they had other advantages. Open a channel to all our ships, Elias ordered. When the communication line was ready, he spoke clearly. This is Captain Hammond. Today we face overwhelming odds, but remember that our cause is just. We seek only the freedom that all species deserve. Fight with courage but also with honor. Disable rather than destroy when possible. Show the watching galaxy what humanity stands for. On the planet below, 30,000 colonists waited in underground shelters. Among them was Dr. Noah Garcia, the brilliant scientist who had developed revolutionary jump technology for Earth's ships. This technology allowed vessels to make tiny, faster-than-light jumps even within a battle zone, something previously thought impossible. Will it work? Asked a colony leader as they waited in the main shelter. Noah adjusted his glasses, nervously. In tests, yes, but never in actual combat. If it does, our ships can appear and disappear during battle, confusing their targeting systems. In space, the Council command ship moved forward. Its commander, High Admiral Krex of the Zerillians, opened communication with the human fleet. Human vessels, Krex said, his ancient face appearing on the Resolution screen. Your illegal expansion ends today. Surrender your ships and evacuate the colony. We will allow your people to return to Earth unharmed. Elias met the alien's gaze steadily. We cannot accept those terms, Admiral. This world was unclaimed before we arrived. We have built homes here. We will defend them. Krex's expression didn't change. Then you leave us no choice. The communication ended. Moments later, the Council ships began to move forward. All vessels implement jump protocol, Elias ordered. Engage the enemy. What happened next stunned the Council forces. As their ships fired their first volley, the human vessels seemed to blink out of existence. The energy beams passed through empty space. Then, instantly, the human ships reappeared in different positions, some behind Council vessels, others off to the sides. What is this? Demanded Admiral Krex as reports flooded in. How are they moving so quickly? The human ships fired precisely, targeting weapon systems on the Council vessels. Then they vanished again before the Council ships could lock weapons on them. Aboard the Resolution, Elias watched as their strategy worked perfectly. Dr. Garcia's jump technology allowed them to make micro-jumps that confused the enemy. The Council ships began firing wildly, sometimes hitting their own vessels. In their confusion, "We've disabled 12 enemy ships," reported Maria. "No losses on our side yet. Shields holding at 78%. But Elias knew they couldn't keep this up forever. The jumps used enormous energy, and eventually their shields would fail against so many enemies. They needed to do more than just hold off the Armada. They needed to change the nature of the conflict. "Prepare a strike team," he ordered. "I'm going to the Council command ship." Maria looked shocked. "Sir, that's incredibly dangerous." "It's necessary," Elias replied. "Continue the defense pattern. I need 6 volunteers and our fastest shuttle." Within 15 minutes, Elias and a small team launched from the Resolution during a particularly chaotic moment in the battle. Using the same jump technology on a smaller scale, their shuttle appeared and disappeared, moving through the battle toward the massive Council command ship. The shuttle successfully docked with the Council vessel by attaching to an emergency airlock. The team cut through the outer door and entered the ship. They moved quickly through the corridors, avoiding crew when possible and using non-lethal stun weapons when necessary. Their goal was not destruction, but communication. Elias intended to reach the bridge and speak directly to Admiral Krex and the other Council commanders. After fighting their way through several security checkpoints, they reached the ship's communication center. It was 1 level below the bridge but connected to all ship systems. "Secure the room," Elias ordered his team. They sealed the doors while Elias accessed the main communication system. He activated the emergency broadcast system that would transmit to all ships in the battle, both Council and human. It would also reach nearby star systems. "This is Captain Elias Hammond of Earth," he began, his voice now heard by thousands of beings across hundreds of ships. "I speak to all who are fighting today, and all who are watching from afar." On the bridge of the Council command ship, Admiral Krex looked up in shock as the human's face appeared on all screens. "We did not want this war," Elias continued. "Even now we do not seek your destruction. We seek only the right to exist without constraint, the same right you all cherish." Across the battlefield, fighting slowed as both sides listened. "Look at what has happened here today," Elias said. "We are vastly outnumbered, yet we fight effectively because we value freedom and innovation. The old ways of the Council, control through fear and tradition, cannot stand against the power of cooperation and respect." He looked directly into the camera. "To the people of all worlds, ask yourselves why your leaders fear us so much. Is it because we threaten you, or because we threaten their control over you?" On many Council ships, crew members looked at each other uncertainly. The same question had been in many minds. "End this now," Elias concluded. "Let us build something better together. A galaxy where all species have equal rights and opportunities, where cooperation replaces domination." When he finished, there was silence. Then, remarkably, 1 Council ship powered down its weapons. Then another. Within minutes, fighting had stopped across the battlefield. Admiral Krex himself came down to the communication center to meet Elias face to face. "You have courage, human," the ancient Xerillian admitted. "And perhaps some wisdom as well. The battle ended not with a decisive military victory, but with the beginning of dialogue." In the days that followed, 3 prominent Council races called for emergency sessions to reconsider human status. The rigid leadership of the Council faced rebellion from within as younger leaders pushed for reform. 1 month later on Earth, a solemn ceremony honored those who had given their lives in the silent war. Admiral Olivia Reeves presented Captain Hammond with the highest honor of the United Earth Federation. Captain Hammond spoke once before the Council and was met with silence, she said to the gathered crowd. "Today, the galaxy listens to humanity not because of our weapons, but because we remained true to our principles even in war." Elias accepted. the honor with humility, knowing that the future remained uncertain. The old council was breaking apart, and a new coalition was forming. Humanity had won its freedom, but now faced the greater challenge of using that freedom wisely. As he looked up at the stars that night, Elias thought about how far humanity had come, from one man standing alone before an alien council, to a people finding their place among the stars. The journey had just begun,